This channel has been commandeered, and in today's video, we're going to be going over what Bitcoin is most likely to do in this next week to of price action. When and where is this next major low likely to come in around? And also, assuming that we do have a little bit of time, we also will be going over hearing myself double right there. My apologies. But we'll also be going over, of course, some actual skill, how to find the next major low. With that said, we're going to jump into this one. Let's go. Beautiful. And here we are back again. I'm going to put up my screen here and we can jump right into this one. Of course, I am doing this in combination with Crypto Banter because we are preparing for the crypto school to be coming up in the next 11 days, 6 hours, 58 minutes, and 55 seconds and counting. And it's going ever so quickly right now. There are limited spaces, of course, and you can probably expect a good amount of what we're going to be doing here. It looks like we've gotten rid of some of the extra voices in the background too, less schizophrenic as of this moment. People are asking, where is 𝗬𝗏? She's actually not here as of the moment. Unfortunately, no helper, but let's jump into this one. What I want to start off this video and what I really want to focus this video on is what is most likely to happen over this next week or two of price action for Bitcoin. So I think that's what most people are most interested in. Of course, you can kind of extrapolate whatever happened to Bitcoin into, whatever your favorite altcoin might be. Generally, it's going to be operating in some sort of this, similar capacity. So first, I want to start off with my bias over here on Bitcoin. I'm going to assume that, no one's really familiar with me here. And of course, Bitcoin, I am still biased towards the downside, as we have been for the past week and a half now, as we do see several signals confirming more downside likely to come. This is the chart of CME Bitcoin right here. And what I really want to be focusing on is how that last week closed, because it's a very important closure. And of course, when we go to the 5-day and the weekly, we can see not just Bitcoin closing on the lows of the week, which is actually rather important, but also some drives of bearish divergence come off this last high, both on the weekly and 5-day. And that's going to be in combination with signals that we received earlier from this past week on the 2-day, daily, and actually the 3-day as well, which I don't have up here as of this moment. So I am still biased for short-term downside price action. This is going to be, again, in confluence with momentum indicators such as the stochastic oscillator, which we can see right here, closed on downside at the end of last week as well. Daily, that was a 2-day time frame, but here's the daily, the 2-day, the 3-day is also going to be down as well. The 5-day and the weekly, all in combination with each other, closing on downside momentum to finish out this last week. So once this new week starts, Monday, might try for a little bit of a bounce, as typically Mondays have been, especially for the past 2.5 months here. But very likely we do see this continuation of further downside. So I should apologize to all of the new people here because you're like, who the hell is this? Who the hell is this guy on this channel? It's commandeered right now, baby. And so yes, the bias here is towards further downside. Bitcoin has unlikely found its low yet. Now, I do want to say long term, I am biased towards Bitcoin going up. I do think that the overall low is in here for this current segment of the market cycle, but this can drag on for quite some more time. So let's get into timing. Where is this next low, or when is this next low likely to happen? Then we'll talk about where perhaps it's most likely to happen. So what I want to do is I want to bring you over to this chart here. This is a chart, if I zoom all the way out, with all of these different colored vertical bars, and they're all very specifically anchored on a very important date. It's a date that's actually coming up, and it is known as the quad witching. And I'm just looking at the June prior quad witchings relevant to Bitcoin here. Now, if you're not familiar with traditional markets, quad witching is a very, 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 very important time. It happens 4 times a year on every quarter. And what happens during it, in case you feel like you really, really want to know, there are 4 major expirations. There are stock index expirations. There are stock futures index expirations. There are stock options expirations, and stock and single stock futures expirations as well. So major price action is typically pivoted around these regions. And if I zoom in here, you can start to really quickly see that a lot of these did correlate. These vertical bars here correlated incredibly well with major pivots on price action, either near major lows or major highs. I'll run through a few of them, of the most recent ones, just so you can get an idea of it, and then I'll speak about why this next one's very, very important and what to expect from it. So here's the thing. We can go back to 2022. You can see that this quad witching date did happen pretty much at the low of the Luna dump. Bitcoin then went on for like a 40 to 50% run actually from that low to the next major high here about 2 months later. We see the same thing over here in summer of 2021. I'm sure many people remember this one, actually very similar to right now as well. Very boring times, but as you can see, Bitcoin put in pretty much the price low at that point, actually on a wick basis. That was basically the low before Bitcoin went on for a pretty significant run over the next 3 months. This one, a little bit less important here, but yes, did go on for actually a 30% run almost relatively quickly. Or sorry, I take that back, closer to a 40% run. I was actually not expecting that. It didn't look like much. This one over here, again, catching the high and so on and so forth. So you can get an idea of what, of what we're looking at. This does have significant impacts for markets typically because major money managers are making big decisions around this date as all of their prior positions are basically coming up to expiration, and they're going to be rolling things over. And that's why a lot of the time you will see major pivots on just in markets in general around this date. And why am I pointing it out right now? Well, you can see on this red vertical bar right here, we're going to see the June quad witching date coming up at the end of this next week. Friday is going to be the date, the 21st. And so I am expecting something resembling a low around that time. Now, again, when we go back into history, it's not going to be perfect maybe to the day, but within a couple of weeks, we typically do see that major form of price action. So this next week, I do expect down, maybe even a little bit more than that. But between Friday, let me actually just turn off Discord on the other side right here. Apologies for that. Between this coming Friday and probably the Friday after that, about a week-long span, maybe it ends up being 2 weeks, something like that. Very likely in terms of timing, we're probably looking at the low. We can actually extrapolate this to a few other things as well, just to see what other things are confluent with this to give added confidence to this sort of to this sort of an idea. So the next thing that I'll go through is yes, it's right here. Is actually I'll pull a Fibonacci time sequence, which is not something that you see too often, but I actually have seen them work rather well in especially for Bitcoin. And what I'm doing here is just very, very simple. I'm anchoring the time from the ultimate high that Bitcoin has seen thus far in middle of March to the ultimate low of this consolidation that we've seen in early May. And we can see that one of the extensions here, the 2-spot extension, is actually directly on Friday. So we're seeing multiple things from different angles now. And I'll bring you one last thing here for the timing of this. I just think this is funny. And if you're from my channel, you know that this is like the most controversial stuff that I ever talk about, which is I think it's hilarious, but it's the moon phases, the damn moon phases. Everyone thinks the moon phases are bullshit, or at least I would think so, and I kind of do as well. But it should be known that generally it does actually work out, especially since Bitcoin is putting the highs here in March. We can see that if you want to call them the bear moons, the new moons, whatever the hell moons, doesn't really matter to me, have been, essentially preceding some downside price action. And that's very consistent actually throughout Bitcoin's history. I can actually go ahead and back test the full history for this, looking at only the downside moons. We can see that just blindly trading these actually would have been profitable in the most simplistic of ways, is what I've done right there. But I'm going to go back into it right here. And what do you know? When does Bitcoin get its next moon? In this case, a bull moon. That would be on Friday again. So multiple things from completely different angles. We're talking about astrology bullshit from the witches. We're talking about Fibonacci time sequences, and then we're also talking about the June quad witching date. By the way, looking at the quad witching dates here and doing a little bit of a deeper study here, I do want to talk about now the implications from this next major low, and then we'll talk about where it's likely to come in around. So the reason why this next major low is so important is because, one, it's likely to be a major pivot, and two, it's likely to proceed somewhere around about a 40% move. When we look at just all of these vertical bars here, we can see that out of 14 prior ones, 11 of them were, major pivots on price action, meaning that within the next couple months, Bitcoin had a significant move, either to the upside or the downside. We are direction neutral here, but significant move. If I specifically just look at the upside, or if I look at the total, the average move from that pivot was about 43.34% over the course of the next 52 days. So that's about, I don't know, about a month and a half, 2 months, maybe a little bit closer to 2 months right there. That's in general. If I just look at the ones that were positive pivots, meaning that the price action that came after the pivot was basically a gain, then we experienced, or Bitcoin experienced, 46.67% on average gained in the next almost 55 days. There was one major outlier there, I will say. If I omit that, it's closer to about 40%, but still a very, very massive move. If we look at the negative side of this equation, we can see that the average negative return was just over 40% in about 50 days, actually. So using those as kind of stakes for the current price action and assuming that Bitcoin is going to be, somewhere relatively similar to what we're looking at right now, on average in the next basically almost 2 months, if we were to look at this from the downside, probably looking, maybe somewhere back down to very low $40,000. I'm going to say at the outset, I'm not biased towards that. I think that's a lot less likely to be happening. And into the upside, perhaps somewhere around, 80 to 90,000 bucks, which does sound, kind of crazy, but Bitcoin is crazy. Anyways, moving on from there, I do want to get into now where are we most likely to see this next major low? And for this, I think some very simple tools will actually get us very, very far here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a very simple Fibonacci retracement from the high to the low of our current structure for Bitcoin. The high being around 74,000 bucks, the low being around about 56,500 bucks. This is specific, by the way, to CME, which does have a little bit of a premium over spot price action, but likely looking somewhere, if I had to guess, around the 618 Fibonacci retracement. That is the golden pocket after all. And while Bitcoin likely bounces along the way, I don't think it's going to be a straight line down. It's been very, well controlled so far. We're probably looking somewhere down around here. At least that's where I would imagine the most risk is as of right now. And that is technically just around about 62,500 bucks. Again, there's going to be a premium over spot price action. So maybe spot price action is a little bit closer to 62 even. Could it come lower than that? Sure. The next area to be looking towards is somewhere closer to here, the 786 fib, as you can see, which is actually just above 60,000 bucks. Ultimately, I do look at all of this as just one long-term opportunity, very likely for Bitcoin. Of course, we're talking about probabilities here, but I do think it's rather high probability. And the reason why I do believe that, or it's not necessarily that I believe that, but the data that supports that is very simple, actually. It comes back to this chart here. This is the Bitcoin production cost chart. If you're not familiar with this chart, it's actually quite simple. What we're looking at is this red channel. The bottom portion of that channel represents the basement price to produce a Bitcoin, like the electricity cost, basically. And the reason why this is significant is because throughout Bitcoin's full history, despite whether it's a raging bull market, a raging bear market, a black swan, like we saw over here in 2020 March, or an FTX collapse and Luna and all that good stuff, Bitcoin did find its lows. It did find its lows around the bottom end of that channel. So, perusing through here, I just want to show you the results. And that has been consistent throughout that time of Bitcoin. And what do you know? The bottom end of this channel is coming in where? It's coming in just below 60,000 bucks. So theoretically, if Bitcoin were to come down here, let's say closer to $60,000, probably going to be a long-term opportunity and still would be a higher low on price action. So I think that is likely where I want to leave this particular analysis. I think we can get in some comments. I think we can also get into some skill as well. I know Crypto Banter wanted me to go over some potential just how to find a low, and we can definitely do that. In fact, this was a pretty damn good example right here, as far as that goes. So maybe I'll take it from there, and then we'll get into some questions as well. I see a lot of people from my community, which is awesome. 𝗖𝗿𝗍𝗪 says, Hassan Krown, I'm gonna kiss you. No, I mean in the boxagon. IRL. Sounds good, man. I'm looking forward to your wet lips. All good, man. Yes. We are going mostly off statistics here. That's a way that's the way that I like to do it. Of course, everyone has their own secret formula. I'm just kind of reading through more of these comments here. Love it, man. Absolutely love it. I love the witch's bullshit. The proceeds to talk about, then proceeds to talk about the Fibonacci scale. Yep, exactly. I see 𝗪𝗟𝗍𝗪𝗓 says it's over. Bull run is over. I'm curious why you think that. All right. Anyways, you know what? Let's get into. These are some great comments here. Sorry, I keep on getting distracted by this. Let me move my microphone here as well. It's a little bit in the way. Okay, so let's get into a little bit of skill here. This will be rather quick and rather simple. And the question that I was presented with is, how do you find a major low, or how do you find a low? Where are lows most likely to come in around? So when looking for lows on price action or highs on price action, it's very difficult to obviously do in the in the moment. When Bitcoin's making new all-time highs at $74,000, you always think it's going to go more. And when Bitcoin's making lows at $15,000, you always think it's going to go more as well. Just intuitively, we all have that sort of emotional response. But one of the ways that can be very useful in my experience is that I want to be looking at a couple things in terms of getting where the actual low will be. Let's pull up a fresh chart here, actually. In terms of getting where the low is actually going to be, I like to use Fibonacci retracements for this particular study. So what I will do is I will go down to the time frame that I'm trying to find a low on. It's obviously going to be specific to whatever time frame you're looking at. In this case, we're looking at higher term time frames. We're looking at the greater scale. So I want to be pulling up a higher term time frame, like a 5-day, like a weekly, probably not a monthly in this case. So we're not talking macro scale, but we're talking about just general trend here. General dominant trend, if you will. And what I'll do from there is I'll just go from the high, or I'll go from the high to the low. And this actually pulls a little bit of an inverted Fibonacci here, but you get the idea. We can see the three major areas where you typically find lows around are going to be the 382, the 50% level, and the 618. In some cases, yes, you will see the 786 as well, but those are typically very weak lows. To be fair. Now, if you want to draw them properly, like I didn't do right there, you want to draw it in the direction of the trend. So in this case, we go from low, we end high, as it is an uptrend after all, with the dominant trend going onwards and forwards, since the last year and a half. So as you can see right now, Bitcoin is essentially basing off of, in this current consolidation, the 50% retracement level, which is a very common bouncy area. Sometimes it will be reversal, yes, but very, 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 very likely a bounce, which is what we're seeing right now, and why I do say that Bitcoin can very easily bounce, Monday, Tuesday, early this week, basically, that wouldn't be a problem. But if Bitcoin is going to find, the next major low, probably looking closer to 618 here. But these are the three major areas that I typically, refer to, and it can come along any one of them, really. It does have different indications upon which one, price action meets. In this case, the 382 is obviously going to be the most aggressive one. That's where you expect your higher lows to form around on your very aggressive and strong uptrends. The 50% level is kind of like the Goldilocks zone, if you will. And then the 618 is a deeper retracement. People call it the golden pocket for a reason. It's a very high probability to bounce. But in my experience, when things retrace a lot further, it does imply that the overall run is getting weaker. It might not be done, but it's getting weaker, which is actually what I do think is going on long term here for Bitcoin. So that'll be the first way to kind of judge where a low is likely to come in around. Another major way that I typically refer to that I think is also rather simple is just looking for bullish divergence on your classic RSI. Pretty much Bitcoin, most assets, when they find their major lows, it's almost always going to be on bullish divergence on your higher term timeframes, the daily, the weekly, these sort of things. And you can see right now, there's no potential for bullish divergence here just yet. Price action, hasn't really come down enough just yet. So I still think that we're waiting overall, and hopefully in the meantime, we can reference these tools and, get a greater idea of where the bigger picture is, because at the end of the day, these portions of the market cycle do take a long time. The real purpose of the last couple of months, just to bore the shit out of people. It's boredom, or it's capitulation by boredom. So I'm going to invert that statement for a second, but it's capitulation by boredom in a sense. And you feel that probably if you've been tuning around to crypto Twitter, crypto YouTube, it feels like it's more of a ghost town during these times. But typically, these are some of the most important times as well. It's where very important things do happen, which is why I'm expecting one of these higher lows to kind of form in around here. I'll leave you with one last thing, just because I've seen a couple of comments on this, and I think it makes for good content. Multiple people are saying the cycle is over, Bitcoin never down again. And I want to give you a very simple way of kind of judging for yourself if this is likely to be true or not. It's a very, very simple way to look at markets on the macro scale. But when you are talking about major highs, major lows, sorry, not just major highs and major lows, but macro highs, macro lows, one of the most simple things you can do for yourself is throw on a 5 exponential moving average. Just that's it. You can see it over here on the chart. It's the red moving average. And basically, throughout Bitcoin's full history, it's been very, very consistent. During your bull phases, Bitcoin likes to base off of it. Yes, it can sometimes wick below, completely fine. But these are all major opportunities long-term, as you can see, as I kind of scroll through here. And the second that Bitcoin starts to close below it, there is your very objective way of looking at it and saying, hey, this trend's over. It's time to probably get on the other side, or at the very least, get out of your damn long positions. And again, very consistent throughout Bitcoin's history here. All wicks below are buys, while closures are above. And anytime you close below, party's over, basically. And what do you know? For the current portion of this market cycle, Bitcoin actually did test below that moving average on May, actually, or in May, I should say. So I would say that while Bitcoin could very easily come back down and test around that moving average, which is currently just above $62,000, and you know it might wick a little bit lower than that. It's completely fine. You know, still likely a good long-term opportunity. So I do want to really be coming at this particular content and this video from the perspective of long-term opportunity. I think that's what most people are interested in. But from my point of view, if you want the most simplistic piece of analysis, as long as Bitcoin's above the 5 exponential on the monthly, just let it do its thing. Just let it do its thing. It always looks like it's about to break, but of course, it only matters where things close. All right, sweet. So I think we've gotten to the end of my sort of portion on this. You know what I'll do now is actually go through some of these comments. I'll see if anything like really sticks out here. If there's any sort of general requests. People want to talk about, I don't know, philosophy, but psychology, trading psychology. If people want to look at, I don't know, anything in particular, or they want to talk about just trading in general, that's completely fine. And stick around for like a few minutes here. We'll see what sort of conversations we can get going. If there's no conversations, then we'll just head on out of here. But I'd like to see, you know, what the community thinks and just read through some of these. So I see, good morning from Maine. Good morning to you, sir. It must be early as hell for you. Definitely the morning. 777 says, I'm a ninja watcher while I'm at work for 4 to 5 years now. Can't wait for the school. Awesome, man. Yeah. By the way, I should mention once again that the crypto school will be starting in 11 days, 6 hours, 37 minutes, and 25 seconds and counting. And there are limited spaces. This is the first cohort for me specifically. So it's kind of like a trial run. We don't know what's going to happen in the future. If people like it, we do it more. If people don't like it, we don't do it more. It's that simple. You can find, of course, a link in the description below as well. And you're going to learn basically my sort of philosophy on price action, my sort of, you know, template of how I set up trading strategies. And then I'm going to hand it over to you, and it's going to be yours to make your own. And the idea with this, not the idea, but the purpose of this is to give you the tools to essentially construct whatever strategy that you want, particular to your own trading preferences. As naturally, we all have different trading preferences, but I can give you my sort of template, if you will, and that will be like the groundwork that you can build upon. Anyways, what happens to 𝗏𝗏? I don't know. Probably goes down. Let's see. I'll pull it up over here. 𝗏𝗏. I don't know this thing. I have never really looked at it. As far as I'm concerned, it's certainly weak compared to Bitcoin. The first things that stand out for me is that it was around in 2021. And anything that's been around from 2021 that has failed to get remotely close to its prior all-time highs is a humongous warning flag for me, just in general. To me, this one is incredibly weak. You can see that with Bitcoin still, you know, somewhat comfortably above its 5 exponential on the monthly. This one is actually already kind of well below. So it's a long month left to go, obviously. But if you do start to see it really close below about $26, this one's very, very likely done for a while. Until then, you can kind of make some excuses for it, but long-term, very weak. I think that there's a lot more interesting things going on in this market just because this one's been around since 2021 and it can't even really get anywhere near its prior all-time high. That's a very bad sign in my experience. And if you're thinking in terms of opportunity cost, if you could be in something else that's actually moving in the direction that, you know, would be making you money, probably better. Anyway, see, good morning from Jersey Channel Islands, like New Jersey. I don't know where that is. I'm American myself, but I live in Finland here. George says, we have something to read before start the school. Or are you asking if I suggest to read something? Yes, we want the template soon. Not all of the time each day to read it. That's the purpose of the school, my man. If I could do it in just one video here, I would. But unfortunately, the shortest that we could realistically make the program to get the point across, assuming that people are starting from somewhat of a base, but not fully new, was still like, I don't know, somewhere probably between like 8 to 10 hours if I had to guess. Paco Saad says Bitcoin to 73,000 next Wednesday. I'm not of the same opinion. I still think this week's probably going to be down. I don't think Bitcoin's found its lows just yet. But let's talk about the possibility of that. What would make me reconsider short-term bearishness? Bearishness is really not the right term. It is a consolidation after all. People get mixed up with bullish and bearish when they're talking about like a fucking 5-minute move or even a daily move. Market trends don't happen in a day. They happen over weeks and months. But yes, anyways, more to the point. What if happened would make me immediately bullish on Bitcoin, saying that, hey, the lows are in. It's not coming any lower. You're very likely to see a breakout sooner rather than later to the upside. It's in my opinion, it's very, very obvious. It comes back to this past Wednesday's rejection. If Bitcoin can trade back above that high and especially close a daily and no less time frame above that high at 70,000 bucks even here, then yes, it's probably ready to go. But that was the big rejection of this past week. So that does hold significance as far as general movements go. Hi from Hungary. Actually used to live in Budapest for a little bit of time. I love that place. Bean, please. Greetings from Espoo. What's up, man? I'm in Helsinki myself. All right, Bean. We can look at some shitcoins here. Sure. I believe this is a 2021 shitcoin. But let's double check. I myself do not go super deep into the dregs. I'm trying to find an exchange that makes sense. I'm guessing 𝗏𝗡 or like CoinEx or something. These are kind of like the new shitcoin exchanges of the day. Terrible, just worse, very, very bad, very fucking bad, bad. Now I want to be very clear. When I talk about shitty charts, I'm not talking about you as a person. You're probably phenomenal as a person. You're probably a very good person. When I'm talking about charts, this is fucking garbage. It's terrible, man. You should avoid this like the plague. You shouldn't even touch this with a 10-foot pole. Just the worst of the worst of the worst is whenever you see a big pump up like this in pretty much no time and then it gives it up immediately. Always a bad sign. This thing's never known what a weekly uptrend is. It's only ever gone down. I wouldn't expect anything different at all. This thing has gone through some of the most bullish of environments and can't even get anywhere near its 2021 high. Terrible. These are things that you probably want to avoid. Just in general. Again, I'm just giving my perspective. I don't know what your strategy is here. Maybe you're short. Great. You're doing great. You're doing great. And of course, you might have another bounce off this region. It might even be a significant bounce. Could easily come back up, 8-9 cents. But ultimately, the long-term trend, I have no reason to believe that the long-term trend is ending anytime soon. PENDLE is one that I've heard of before. I think I remember it was on the better side of things, but let's see. Yeah, definitely better. Okay, so let's contrast that last shit chart with this chart. Great chart. It only goes up. It only goes up. This one was around in 2021 as well and did the whole bear market with everything else, but it has proven itself in this last year and a half here. While most things were struggling to get anywhere near their prior all-time highs in 2021, this one made significantly new all-time highs by a great margin, actually. This chart is deceptive because it is on log scale, but this went for a almost 700% move above its prior all-time highs just in this past year. It's a really good sign long-term. This one's one of the stronger ones. And similar to Bitcoin, you're seeing something, relatively the same as Bitcoin in the more recent segment since basically March, April, basically. This one's gone into a nice tightening consolidation range. What we can do here is we can go into a slightly lower time frame, pop in some of our fibs and see, where things are kind of aligning as of right now. And what do you know? This one is finding a bit of a low around that 618. Of course, it's not in there just yet. I'd like to see this one pop back up above about 582 before I say, hey, bulls are back in charge. But as of right now, this one's actually stronger than Bitcoin, pound for pound. Now, would I expect something like this to go up if Bitcoin were to go down? Of course, I don't think Bitcoin's going to go significantly down from its current low here, below about $56,500. But what if? It's always a good thought experiment. You need to have a plan for what you think is even unlikely to happen. I mean, black swan events do have a non-zero probability, so it's good to plan for. And in this case, this one, look, I mean, if it lost the current low at 382, yeah, and and Bitcoin's below its current low, yeah, this one's going to come down as well. It's not going to be immune from those movements, but it should bounce harder whenever Bitcoin bounces, and it should move more pound for pound whenever Bitcoin moves to the upside. This one's a strong one. This is a great example of a very strong one, actually. Robert Becerra says, "What about PNG, bro? What about PNG, bro? I don't know. So that's is that how you put your images or some shit? Pangolin, okay." Again, not one that I'm familiar with myself. I'm going to go to Gate.io here because sounds like it's a good exchange for shitcoins. And you already know where I'm going with it, man. You already know. Again, this chart is deceptive. God awful. This thing will never see anywhere around its prior highs ever again. This thing's down, it's down 89.25%. Here's the problem. With shit like this is that you're down. I mean, from the highs, like not you, but this chart is down about 89%. To get back to those prior highs, you don't just need an 89% move. You need an over 700% move. Do you know how likely that is in cryptocurrency, especially for something that's already seen a prior cycle? It's not. it's not likely. This one goes into the god awful chart category. Again, I'm not talking about you as a person. You're probably a great person. You're probably a good contributing member of society, but as far as charts go, this one can go fuck itself and should honestly as well. Very likely, if Bitcoin shows any weakness this week, which I suspect it will, you're going to see this one, puke a little bit harder than Bitcoin. I'd probably be looking somewhere around a quarter overall in the coming months if Bitcoin were to show any weakness. If it were to show any weakness, now, if Bitcoin were to show some strength, obviously, which I do think is more likely, perhaps later on this summer, it is likely to take a little bit more time. What I would be looking at here is, I'd be looking at an upside move, but not anything super significant. It's not going to outpace Bitcoin. And again, when you're thinking in terms of opportunity cost, there are going to be better things, typically newer things. They don't have all this 2021 overhang, which certainly does matter. All right, I'll go through a few more of these comments here. I see that we're getting a lot of community engagement and a lot of comments, which is great. I need to take a sip of this water because my throat is super raspy right now. Okay, here's a great question. Dion van der Heeven, definitely Dutch. What's the quickest way to scan through tokens? All right. Well, the first thing, okay, a few ways I can take this. Well, one, most tokens, most things in this market, most things in general, they move in the same direction. You can use Bitcoin as basically an index. Whenever Bitcoin's moving up, you mostly expect your altcoins to be moving up, at least some more than others, obviously. When Bitcoin goes down, same shit there. Now, if you want a very quick way to scan your altcoins, I mean, first off, what's the purpose of that scan? Like, what are you trying to figure out? Are you trying to figure out trends? I think that'd probably be the most probably important thing. And for that, I'd actually employ a very simplistic method here as well. I would put two moving averages on my chart. I'd put a 21 exponential moving average and a 55 exponential moving average together. And if the 21, the lower period, in this case, the yellow, is above the higher period, the 55 as the green, then you're in an uptrend. And I'd be on a weekly time frame for this. Well, it does depend. If it doesn't have that much history, probably a daily. And I'd be looking for which ones are in uptrends, and then from those uptrending ones, I'd be looking for I'd be looking for higher lows from there. And that would be probably a very quick way to kind of siphon through. Okay, is this thing even worth it at this point? And as you can see right now, Bitcoin has actually just crossed to the downside here. So Bitcoin is in a little bit of sorry, this is not Bitcoin. This is 𝗲𝗏. 𝗲𝗏 is in a little bit of trouble. I actually do think it's going to bounce short term, to be honest, but that bounce very likely leads to a lower high. Not impressed by that one on its own. Needs a strong, broad market for this one to go up. All right, let's see what else we got. I see that actually there's a lot more comments over here. Okay, Ton, Ton. All right, we'll check this one out as well. I'll do a few more. Let me just check. Make sure not pissing other people off. It's expecting some messages like, "Hey man, you gotta slow down. You gotta stop it now." But I guess it's all good. Very good chart. Very, very good chart. Again, contrast this with some of the other shitcoins that we've seen. This one has only gone up. Now, admittedly, it's been around since 2022, so it's got a little bit of history there. So actually, yeah, this would be an example of a much stronger one. Now, short term, this one does seem to have more or less broken out. It does not look like a super strong breakout just yet. So I actually would be looking for this one to probably pop back down first and try for another higher low, maybe somewhere around $7.5. But ultimately, this one, if Bitcoin shows any signal of a bounce, any signal of upside strength, this one will gain more pound for pound. This one's actually rather strong in comparison. It's just, you know, if Bitcoin were to kind of dump a little bit into this next week, does this one dump with it? Yeah, but I suspect that would give an opportunity overall. This one is certainly one to watch. The question to me is just, you know, how far down does it come on this next potential for a higher low? Overall trend is up, and you don't need to make it any more complicated than that. This one's very, very good long term, as long as it's above about 6.25. 6.25 there. Let's see. All right, I see a lot of spamming. What does the blue line stand for? What blue line? What blue line? I actually don't know what you're referencing. Maybe you're talking about this one here. It's just a 9 exponential moving average. I personally like to use that because I have a system that incorporates that for kind of judging how strong the current trend is. But that's a topic for perhaps another video. I think we're probably not going to have the time to really get into something like that today. A little bit more of a nuanced conversation. Dot got them bags 𝗬𝗂𝗪𝗡 puking. I'm curious to see what Dot is doing. It got them bags 𝗬𝗂𝗪𝗡 puking. All right, I'm ready to puke my face off too after looking at all these shit coins. And there's going to be some more puking. Very, very bad. Again, just terrible, terrible, terrible. I don't think that this thing's ever going to see its per all-time high in its lifetime. It's just lower highs the whole way through in some of the most bullish environments of ever. Anyways, High Street coin. Okay, I like the name, so let's check it out. I have high hopes here. I want to see something good. High Street. God, man, it's bad. It's really bad. Really, really bad. It probably bounces here, probably tries for a bounce, but it's hard to like a chart like this, man. Very, very hard to like a chart like this. Look, I understand that this is probably very low liquidity sort of shitcoin stuff. Maybe a Hail Mary gets sent from the heavens. Who knows? I don't know. Pray to whatever deity that you have. The only way that I get excited about something like this is if it were back up about $7.5. I don't think that happens. I think long term the trend continues, but it's actually kind of hard with something like this because it's like you drop a rock, and of course when you drop a rock in water, like it doesn't bounce initially, so you don't really have any signs of life here. This one, if it does pump up, it's just gonna be like some low liquidity bullshit, and I would expect another dump, you know, soon after that. Anytime you see this sort of price action here, where you have pump, and then it just immediately gets erased in a couple weeks, that's not a good sign long term. You're just playing the pump and dump game. Very, very difficult game to win at long term. Take another sip of this water. I'll look at some more of these. Oh man, we got the hexagons here. Oh shit. All right, shit's about to get down. All right. What was it? Hex. I'm not expecting much on this one. You tell me. You tell me, man. You tell me. Look, this one had its chance, I think, to put in its low. That was way back on over here. It didn't. It's just getting worse. It's only getting worse. Same shit that I'd say about any other chart that would do something similar to this. I'd be surprised to see this thing even back above 20 cents ever again, to be honest with you. Down, down, down we go. Where it stops, only shitcoin Jesus knows. And unfortunately, shitcoin Jesus is out of the building right now. You know, it can easily have pumps back up to like 2, or is that even 2 cents? No, that's like, yeah. I mean, you could easily see a pump back up to like 2 cents, maybe even 5 cents in the most bullish of environments, but I don't think this one's doing anything interesting long term. Big league hexagons. Wow, wow, wow. Trump tier investors. Let's see. Okay. Let's find something new. Pride flower, pansexual pride flower. Yes, that's right. It's gay month, so we're all very happy about that. My pronouns are he, him. And today it's shit and coin. Let's see. 𝗂𝗄𝗄, please. Okay, 𝗂𝗄𝗄. I remember this name from I think like a year ago or so now. Let's see what we got here. Again, stands out long term compared to most other things we've seen, because it does remain with its overall uptrend. Hasn't been around since 2021, so we can't really compare it to some of the other ones, but kind of similar to one of the other ones that we did see earlier today. You know, the trend remains your friend. The question is, or the skill here is finding that next higher low. And for this, you know, just take the low to the high. It's already at the 50% level, or pretty much there. It's maybe slightly lower. Probably tries for a bounce around here. I suspect you probably do see a leg lower, and higher lows might come in around somewhere in this region here. There are major issues, major issues with this one long term. If you do see it below about 12 cents, below 12 cents, I'd say, hey, long term, this one's probably switching around. But again, likely to benefit from any sort of strength that Bitcoin shows. All right. Solana, I know Solana. Let's see. I think I even have it on my list over here. Let's go pull up Solana. What's Solana looking like? 144. You know, this one definitely got a lot closer to its prior all-time high than many other things that we've seen today. Also kind of, you know, overdone on the downside in 2022, but fair enough. You know, that was obviously well, fundamentally driven, if you if you want to call it that. Anyways, I'll remove this box because it's an eyesore right now. You know, has Solana found its lows at 115 about a month ago, or sorry, 2 months ago? Yeah, I do think so. And kind of similar to the last chart, I'd be on higher low watch here. Where are higher lows likely to come in around? Well, let's do the same thing for this one as we did on the prior one. And I'm just going to go from that low to this high. And, you know, it might take another leg down if Bitcoin shows any weakness early on in this week, maybe around 130 to 125 region, but that would still be a higher low. I look at that as an overall opportunity. Only really major problems if you see this one below April lows. See that? Okay, yeah, this one's probably seen its highs for quite some time. After that, you know, you're probably gonna see the monthly turn on over. But for now, I think you kind of have to look at things with a little bit of leniency here. Don't check Hash Panda. When will exactly alt season will start? Will start when start alt season starts. I don't fucking know, man. No one knows the exact moment when alt season starts. I'm actually of the opinion that you're not going to get an alt season, or at least in the way that you've seen prior cycles. And I know that's a very incendiary statement, but I do believe that you're going to see in this cycle the bifurcation between quality altcoins and little shitcoins. Now, I know that sounds ridiculous as well, because up until now, what has been the sector that has you know, benefited the most has been the meme coin sector, right? I think that game of musical chairs is likely dying here. You know, maybe some of those stronger ones, if you can even call it that, have a little bit more to go. Sure, yeah, that's all good. But I think, you know, after this summer ends, you're probably going to see really just the strong things that actually have, you know, something resembling fundamentals behind them take the lead for a bit. So that's just my opinion. I don't think you're going to get like this broad sweeping altcoin season where everything goes up. I think if you're in 2021 altcoins in general, for 95, probably 98, probably 99% of them, they're not even going to retest or exceed their prior all-time highs. Very, very few will. It's the new altcoins, it's new shitcoins that are the most that have the most potential, and it's probably the ones that actually are being made right now and are going to release in this next 3 month span. It would be my guess, but that's not really my game. Ree says 9 bars. He doesn't like that. He don't like that. Fair enough, ma'am. Psychopath token going to top 2 next year. Watch out. No problem. As I look up how to tell if you're talking with a schizophrenic. Sorry, man. Couldn't help it. I couldn't help it. Let's see. The next Solana, SUI or SEI? Okay, so I'm guessing with asking a question like that, you're basically asking which one's going to go up a shit ton. Well, this one's not. That one's pretty fucking bad too. Again, while most things have been moving comfortably to the upside, especially in the last few months, this thing has been moving comfortably to the downside. This one looks like a cycle top, maybe. I wouldn't be as confident on this one. What was the other SCI, SUI? Does it even matter? It's all the same shit, really. Same. Yeah, same shit, basically. Same shit. I don't think there's much of a difference between these two symbols here, SUI, SCI. Same shit in the last couple months. They trade together. Just pick your poison. Anyways, CAS, we did CAS. Let's see, maybe near. I remember this one from 2021. It's probably not gonna be good. But let's see. Maybe I eat my words. I haven't looked at this one in a very long. Nope. It's bad. It's real fucking bad. Again, man, look. If you want my analysis on shit long term, if you're in a 2021 shitcoin and it's nowhere near its per all-time high, it's fucking bad. Like very, very bad. Very, very bad. Not meaning that it's just going to go straight down from here. There will be bounces. If Bitcoin shows any strength, Bitcoin makes new highs, you're probably going to see this one make new highs on this year, but it's not going to be anything percentage-wise compared to some of the other newer shitcoins. So I have to hopefully make that as nuanced statement as possible. Again, if you are new here, as I'm new here as well, I'm not talking shit about you as a person. You're probably great as a person. In fact, you're very likely great as a person. But in terms of charts, very bad chart. This chart will give you AIDS if you look at it too long, and that's why we need to go to something else immediately. Immediately, we need to cleanse the palate. We need to get out of here. So everything is bad. Most things are bad. No, we've actually seen several things today that were that did show some actual relative strength. This guy has no clue why are we here. I mean, I understand that you're probably more interested in shitcoins and everything, but again, there have been some good examples of some good shitcoins. Go with those ones. Would be my suggestion. Now, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not your financial advisor. If you want to if you want to invest in these highly technical in this new technology and highly esteemed altcoin sector, by all means, man. By all means, I'll let you have all the gains. Cliff Smith says render, RNDR. I happen to have looked at this one in the past week, and I do remember that it was generally good. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, long term, again, you have something here from 2021. It has made new highs above its 2021 highs. It is relatively strong compared to certainly most things that we've seen today. Another good example of relative strength. The real question is here, where does the next higher low come in around? So it's actually very possible that this one might have already seen its next higher low. Let's see. I'm going to take it for this current consolidation. Might have another slightly down to like 7.25. But if this one is going to be long-term bullish, I really wouldn't expect it to go too much lower than that. If you do see it lower than that, yes, there's probably going to be a bounce somewhere around like $5.5-ish bucks. But I would be very skeptical of that bounce producing any sort of legitimate reversal. All right. Gucci says, good name, by the way. 𝗬𝗪𝗀. All right, we'll do some 𝗬𝗪𝗀. Stay on here for a little bit longer. See what else we can get. See what sort of conversations we can get flown. Just making sure that no one from Crypto Banter is texting me saying, "Hey, get the fuck off." So far, so good. Actually, yes, another example of a certainly much better chart. Now, it hasn't been around since 2021, which is actually a good sign in and of itself. Just doesn't have that overhead hang. It has been consistently moving to the upside in this past cycle. So also another somewhat good sign. Don't know what the hell this thing is. Don't know what the hell this thing does. But I would be giving it a chance to put in a low somewhere around this area right here and try for a bounce off there. In fact, it's pretty damn close already. Maybe another few stabs into that region, but I'd give it a chance to bounce there. Something like that. Again, very difficult if this thing is a meme token because they really can actually just straight up rug pull. But we already looked at SCI. Very bad, man. Very, very bad. Again, there can be bounces. Just because I think something is bad doesn't mean that there can't be bounces. Just I would be looking at those bounces as not likely to continue, not likely to produce reversals. Symbol STX. Is this stats? Is this the Bitcoin thing? Is this the Bitcoin thing? I sound like a fucking boomer. Yeah, it is. It is stacks. Okay, so this is like, I think it's DeFi on Bitcoin, something like that, right? Anyways, again, another example of something that actually exceeded its 2021 highs. A good sign long term. Should be on higher low watch here for the higher term timeframes. And in this case, I'll do the same thing as I did on the last one. Let's see where our major fibs come in around. In fact, it's already hit the 618. It tried a very large bounce off of the 618 last week. This week kind of coffee most of it up. I think you might dig into this region a little bit more, like 175. 170 to 175 region. I'd give it a chance to try a bounce from there. The most obvious way to know when this one has reversed and is ready for, basically to retest those highs and probably make new highs somewhat, I wouldn't say soon after that, but, just generally, is when you see this one trade back above your early June highs, which is basically like $2.50. That's where I get a lot more excited about this one. But yeah, again, an example of something that's better for sure. Stronger, relatively stronger. Okay, wow, a lot of shitcoins here. Getting stinky. Your thoughts on Gummy, the Banter family coin? I don't have any personal thoughts, man. I know that meme coins are the meta right now. I don't know how much longer that goes on for. It's a much more difficult game to play, in my opinion. Much more difficult game to play. PP, banter, please. All right. I think that just means PP. Okay, let's try this one. This one was one of the darlings of past cycles. And again, another example of something that actually, or sorry, this one's not around since 2021, but, you know, rallying a lot in comparison to many of the things that we've seen. It's because it doesn't have that 2021 overhang that you see on most of these other things. So, you know, again, it's a meme token. Yes. Where can we maybe look for on a higher low? Again, this one is relatively strong, bouncing off the 50% retracement right here. I'd give it a chance to continue on with this bounce as of right now. If this bounce fails and you see this one go below its current low, I would be looking a little bit lower, but likely try for a higher low somewhere around this pocket right here. Until then, this is an example of one of the more strong ones. Another example of why you don't want to be stuck in those 2021 shitcoins that have not shown strength thus far, when you could be in, I guess, something better. If you're going to be in something better, I guess it would be this. Again, very, very difficult to play with the meme tokens, because it quite literally is a game of musical chairs. But if I'm just looking at charts, that's what I'd say. Need a few more sips of this water. We'll go through a few more of the comments after this. Just one moment. All right, I've seen 𝗬𝗎𝗎 and 𝗍𝗐𝗐 like a million fucking times. I'm going to go, I'll do a couple of these, and then we'll see what else we get. All right, 𝗬𝗎𝗎, I remember this one's a 2021 shitcoin, and you already know, couldn't be worse. Look, it probably does go up from here. Maybe not this exact this exact low right here. I think this one does trade to the upside, as most of these altcoins will. It's just, is it going to do anything significant compared to what you saw in 2021 in terms of price? Very unlikely. Very, very unlikely. I wouldn't be surprised to see this one maybe even around 5.5 cents, which would actually be a pretty good jump from where it currently is at right now, to maybe even as much as like 8 cents long term. But it's just very difficult to love a chart like this. Very, very difficult. Okay, then what was the other one? There was 𝗬𝗎𝗎, and then it's okay, Krown. It's shitcoin mania here. I've noticed. It's crazy. Matic, please. Oh, you don't want to know. You don't want to know, sir. Benji. Okay, I don't know this one. So let's see. Let's go into it with an open mind. It's called Benji Bananas. So probably has great fundamentals. Not great. There's no real analysis to be done on something that is this new. It's been around just for a few months here. Not much price action that we've really seen. I mean, I'm guessing if I put in my volume, it doesn't even really trade. So I have no fucking clue on this one. Just not enough to be going off of them. Let's see. What's up? Organoms 0. What's up, man? Ondo. All right, we'll do some Ondo. I've seen that one pop up many times now. Let's see what the chart looks like. It's called Ondo Finance. So yeah, much better. Much better. Okay. I've apparently charted this one on my own streams before. It looks like it hit the 2414 extension, which is very likely to produce a pullback, which is exactly what you're getting right now. Question is, where is this next low to come in around? And I suspect you're probably looking a little bit lower. I don't think it's found its lows just yet. I do think you're probably going to step a little bit lower, somewhere between like $1.10 to $1.even. But I would give that a chance to actually continue upwards and onwards from there. Very, very good example of a stronger chart here. Only been around since the beginning of 2024, but look, it's rallied consistently the whole way through. That's what we want to see on our new shitcoins if they are going to be more of the stronger side. Again, I don't think the low's in just yet. Only way I'd change my mind if you see it trade back above Friday's high at 140. Until then, very likely some sideways and down, but long term, definitely one of the better ones that we've seen. Dog Elon Mars, is that even on TradingView? I'm gonna guess not. It's too much to type, man. Too much to type. Let me just check my phone over here, make sure that everything is going all right. Okay, we are. Sweet. I still haven't been told to get the hell off, so we'll keep on going with it. Then we'll keep on going with it. We'll see how much crypto banter is not happy with this over time. Injective, sure, we can look at this one. I remember this one was a strong one from a past cycle. Let's see how it survived into this cycle. Looks like I have some drawings there. Again, another good example of a 2021 shitcoin making significantly new highs. prior all-time highs. This one's obviously entering into a consolidation range here, as we've seen on a lot of the other actually stronger ones. Oops, let me completely remove all this. And I'd just be, I'd be looking for this range to continue on here for, it could take some time. It really could, but more sideways here is going to be more better actually long-term. If you see it trade anywhere above this week's high at basically 33 bucks, it's game on to the upside yet again. Only way I'd get bearish on this one if you see a closure below your April lows, below about like 18.5, 19 bucks. You see something like that, okay, big problems. But I suspect that this one might give another stabs down around this this lower boundary, but it very likely does bounce. And a really good example of a long-term strength here. So not bad. Sweet. All right, Brett. I've seen this one around the web. I've seen this one in the interwebs. I've seen this one on the seen this one on the interwebs. Again, a very, very new chart. It's a little bit difficult on the newer ones. I will say I don't trust technical analysis or really any sort of analysis that much on super new charts, but it cannot be denied it has been in a nice steady uptrend. Let's see. I'm wondering. I'm guessing it's probably hit a major fib target here. Indeed, it did. The 2618 on the current highs, right there. So coming down from that region, while it has been very aggressive, nearly a 50% drop, to be expected. Maybe not that percentage-wise, but certainly to be expected on a pullback. I do think that it could easily pull back again, but I'd be looking at this 12-cent region to provide a bit of a base for price action, meaning that as long as it's above about 11, 12 cents. We can make an excuse for it. We can say, hey, it's put in a higher low, probably continues upwards and onwards later. But again, I have my reservations with meme coins that are very, very new, that have gone on for these pretty tremendous runs here. I'd be very quick to flip bearish on it if it were below about 11 cents, especially on a closing basis. That would be very problematic. But until then, one of the stronger ones, if we're just going by charts, for sure. All right, I need some more water. My voice is starting to fail me now. Okay, Jesus Christ, man. All right, there is no way certainly no way we're getting to all of these. Maybe just a few more. Just gonna check my phone one more time. I'll stay on for maybe like another 5 minutes or so. Yeah, we'll do like another 10 minutes, another 10 minutes or so. I'll get through as many as I can. TRB, let's see what TRB is. Telor. All right, I think there's an old shitcoin as well. Very bizarre chart here. It actually has been around for multiple cycles and has made new highs above its prior cycle highs. I am inclined to say this one is, I mean, it's kind of on par there. It's basically at its prior all-time high now. So it's not one of the super strong altcoins, but it's definitely not one of the super weak ones as well, which is actually a better sign than certainly most of the things we've seen today. No doubt about that. The question is if this one is going to continue, where do we expect the next higher low to come in around? In this case, I'd actually say that your next low should already be in. And if this one does come back down a little bit, we really don't want to see it go much deeper than this nutsack right here. Anything below 44 bucks, big problems, big problems long term. Until then, I'd actually be more lenient towards it and look at any sort of pullback into this region as likely the next higher low, trying to get to the upside on any sort of Bitcoin strength. This one should do okay. Not amazing, but okay. Let's see. Okay, Gala. I know that. I think I know where this one's going, man. I think I know where this one's going. I've seen Gala several times in past cycles, and I'm gonna guess it's nowhere fucking near its prior all-time high. It's literally on the lows. It couldn't be any worse. Terrible, man. Just terrible. Look, if you have a 2021 shitcoin and it is 96% down from the all-time highs, that's a great buy. Okay? We're here for good deals. Kidding. All right? No. It's bad. Well, everything else in their mother has been rallying for the last year and a half in one of the most strong bull markets of all time. This thing cannot piece together a fucking rally to save its life and just puts in yet another macro lower high. Holy shit. Bullish. No. Bad, man. All right, Arrow. All right, let's see it. Another one. I've not heard of this one before. I guess. I don't know. I guess this chart. Not much history here, but for the history that we do have since 2024 began, it's gone mostly up. It has certainly struggled since the April highs. I'll say that. Let's see how far down it's come here percentage-wise. Holy shit. If you play stuff like this, you have balls of steel, okay? You have my respect. I will watch from the sidelines, though. I don't want any piece of shit like this. Look, again, it's not a good sign when you drop 70%. I know it's very new. I know it's probably very low liquidity. The swings here are probably astronomical both ways, both the upside and the downside, which is why I suspect most people like playing altcoins, because you get to play the casino and maybe, just maybe, you make hundreds of millions of quadrillions dollars on paper and then you lose it all later. Look, it probably bounces here, but I think that this one actually is entering into a bit of a downtrend. I'd be expecting lower highs or anywhere around like 110. I wouldn't be bullish on this thing as long as it's below whatever this rejection is here, like 140. Above 140, I eat my words, and I'd be bullish on it yet again. But I think it's better to be more on the side of like more conservative side. Yes, maybe not politically, but in terms of chart analysis and trading, better to be on the conservative side here and kind of say that this one kind of needs to prove itself in the more short term. Super burst Elliott coin. I happen to know Elliott incredibly well, and I know that he works extremely hard on this thing too. Let's see what Super's done. Okay, so Super has not retested. Well, when I put it on, compared to a lot of the other things, yes, it's a little bit stronger than there, but I cannot ignore the fact that it is not retested its per all-time high. That's just a rule. Here we can see it did go on for a very phenomenal run since basically, last quarter of last year. I mean, this was a holy shit 2,000% run. I understand why people like the coins. I understand. I'd give it a little bit, technically speaking, should be given it a little bit of leniency here, as long as it's above about the 50% retracement level. I'd give it a chance to bounce there, maybe reverse from there. I think that's kind of where this current move is. It's finding its way, anywhere between like, I don't know, 60 cents to 70 cents region. But if you start to see it lose these regions, trend is going to be long-term the same, unfortunately, which would be to the downside here, to be fair. And again, I say this as a really good friend to Elliott, but needs to prove itself right here. I would give it a chance, and I do think that it probably will pull through ultimately, just knowing how hard he works on this thing. But at the end of the day, if Bitcoin shows significant weakness and it breaks down, this thing will too, as most things, right? Are we baked yet? It's like 10 in the morning, man, so no. It's 10 in the morning on a Sunday. Okay, are you high and drunk yet? We already looked at 𝗷𝗚𝗄. It's fucking awful. All right, near. We'll do near. Did we already do near? I remember this one from 2021. I'm not expecting anything great here. Let's see. Yeah. Another example of just some nowhere near its per all-time high. You know, if it bounce, I think it will bounce somewhere around here. Yes, but if Bitcoin shows significant weakness, this thing will get hammered. If Bitcoin shows strength, it will go to the upside, just not as much as a lot of the other stronger shitcoins we've seen today. Big focus on your April lows here. Anywhere below there, just send it to hell. Just send it to hell. But until then, technically speaking, it has a short potential for short-term higher low. All right, and we'll do two more, and then we'll call it a day. My voice is actually starting to lead me here. Some great comments, by the way. Some really, really good names in this community. All right, Prime. Sure. Okay, we can go look at Prime. All right, symbol PRME. Okay, let's see what this one has on. I guess we go to Gate.io here. Look, it's going to bounce here, yes, but not good. Not good. It's really difficult. It's really difficult to like something that goes 70% down from its highs. Yes, it's very likely to bounce here. I guess, technically speaking, because it is, long-term is still an uptrend, to be fair, weekly. Give it a chance to maybe take out this prior high here. If it does, very bullish. If it doesn't, send it all the way back down. But very likely to bounce from its current area. Bounce can very easily come up to like 13, 14 bucks, no problem. Somewhere around here. If you start to see it trade back above there, okay, a little bit of hopium, you start to see it trade above your May highs, full on hopium, I suppose. But I'd be wary of this one. Again, I'd be more on the conservative side for something like this. Finally made it to the live. Nice, man. Nice. Good morning to you. All right, AVAX. We'll do some AVAX again. Another one from 2021. See what this one's doing nowadays. Another terrible example. Terrible. Couldn't even make it to the 382, or couldn't even make it past the 382 of the bearish retracement from its all-time high to its current high. I don't look at this as a good sign long term. Again, Bitcoin bounces. It will move to the upside as well, but not as strong. And this one already showing, weakness before we've seen any real puking of Bitcoin. And I'd give another chance to bounce off this region. What is this area exactly right here? Somewhere between about upper 27, like 27 to 30-ish region. I'll give it a chance to bounce there. But again, any weakness from Bitcoin, this thing will break down. Very, very weak overall. It's just it needs a strong broad market. Without a strong Bitcoin, something like this is going to peak pretty damn hard. Could very easily come back down to like 20, 21 bucks. But for right now, give it a chance to bounce off here. If Bitcoin picks it back up later this week, okay, you might have a chance. It's just difficult to envision anything like super dumping without Bitcoin really taking out, below about 60,000 bucks or so. Anyways, yeah, let's do Ethereum. Let's actually do Ethereum. Actually have Ethereum on my list right here. Nope, I want the long-term chart. Where's my long-term chart? I need some damn water again. All right. Okay, just a moment for some water. Ethereum, pretty damn similar to Solana in the sense that it hasn't really tested its all-time high. Kind of say that it's par for the course, not super strong, not super weak, kind of in the middle of the pack there. It's been around for many cycles and has consistently made new highs from those prior cycles. So, I should be lenient with this one long term, and it is in a weekly uptrend right here. So again, the name of the game is to find the next higher low. I suspect we probably already hit into one of the major areas. Let me just take a Fibonacci retracement for the current consolidation. And what do you know? It is bouncing off of essentially the 618. So looking at this one, should probably make it a little bit more. Yeah, there we go. Bouncing off the 618 right there. I'd give it a chance. I'd actually give it a chance from here. This actually could very well be the low that we did see that last week. Doesn't mean that it can't come back down and maybe wick around that low. Can definitely happen, but I wouldn't be expecting any closures below that low. If you do see a closure below that low, basically last week's low at 33.5, well, at that point, you're probably going to see closer to 31 or even 3,000 even. But for right now, I'd actually give it a chance. I've actually had this area marked off for a while. Not that I trade this one, but just for general analysis purposes. It's just how is this one going to act if Bitcoin takes any sort of a leg down this coming week would be the real question. All right. Holy shit, these comments are just flying on in. I've seen 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 like a million times, but it does seem like it's one of those shill accounts because not only are you asking for 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, but literally your username is by 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. Very unbiased here. Very unbiased. Hey, we should all just go short Solana. I wouldn't suggest that either. The problem with shorting right now in this market is, one, the long-term trends are still very much away from you. And then two, even if things do go down, they can bounce pretty damn hard. So kind of managing those positions a pain in the ass. Donald Trump Inu is CTO from a few months back. I don't know what CTO is, man. Okay, I've seen Link. Actually, I'm very curious to see what Link looks like. Link obviously has been around for a long time now, but hasn't really done anything super interesting this cycle. Yeah. It's hard to say that this one's strong any longer. Past cycle, actually a little bit before the past cycle, was one of the best, but nowadays not so much. Trading range continues to go on here. I suspect that you probably continue to do something like this. In terms of range plays, it's actually rather obvious. Anywhere back above, what is this, May highs, you can be bullish on it once again. Probably expect new highs in this rally towards 25 bucks, maybe even 30 bucks if things get really, really crazy. By the same token, I think you're probably in for a lot of sideways here, to be honest. Anywhere below your April lows, and this thing is, very likely heading back down to 10 bucks or lower. Again, not strong on its own. It needs a strong broad market here. Puking a little bit more than Bitcoin pound for pound is not a good sign, especially in this last month here. Okay. I think it's gonna be the last one. GM Crown, please check Mog Coin on Ethereum. God. Okay, Mog Coin. Let's see. All right, I'm going in. Actually, a lot better than what I was expecting. A lot better than what I was expecting. Again, I guess you have to be a little bit lenient with some of these shitcoins because like these are moves that just put hairs on your chest. I'm suspecting it's already at one of our major fibs. It's at the 618. I give it a chance to bounce here. It might stab into this region a few more times, like around the current low of last week. You might see a few more stabs there, but I'd actually give it a chance to bounce from there. You see the bounce pop back up above, what is this? Your 12th of June's high. Good, and continues on with the overall rally. You know, overall it is an uptrend, so you can't hate that ever. Looking at the weekly, I am inclined to say it probably has one more wick fishing to the downside at least before an attempt for a bounce. Cum rocket. Yes, we all love our cum rockets, sir. All right. I think that's probably going to be it for today. My voice is killing me. It's been fun. We've been here for about an hour and 10. I think on that note, I will signal to the producer. It's been an absolute pleasure. Again, you can check out the crypto school that we'll be doing in 11 days, 5 hours, 48 minutes, and just ticked. Holy shit. It's going faster and faster. 55 seconds now. There is limited spaces. We don't know how many of these we're going to do. So if you're interested and you want to learn my sort of philosophy on price action, my sort of trading template, my trade strategy template, which you can use for yourself, you can iterate on top of for yourself, you can essentially create your own preferences on top of that, then this perhaps might be a good idea for you. At the very least, it's free, so there's no sunk cost there, and I think that is, yeah, that's what we'll leave it. So as always, I want to wish you the best of the best. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully next time.